from him? Dear, not
Usually my
Ethan.
wife goes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm not Ethan.
Cause you say that lead as not
Usually
me,
it's.
right? So that's
Oh,
coming
that's
up.
funny, that's way
Yeah.
listed out. You're not Ethan.
Honestly.
Junk,
Usually I-
junk.
if you have-
Okay.
Hello, Bob.
How are you guys?
So. We're talking about questions regarding this policy. We're gonna.
Hello. How are you, Craig?
Good, how are you doing?
Great, thanks.
Carrying out the.
See what it says.
Carl?
How are you tonight?
Good.
Should be a tab.
Says in the.
Yes.
No
I-
substantive changes.
I wasn't on that committee, but I still read it.
Attaboy.
Things that made it
No,
not
I just know that
substantive and it was
My
pretty.
non-poker face is gonna get in trouble.
Terminology and that now,
That's
and
what
I
I
couldn't
was.
see it in the doc, have you got it, you got the,
That's the
what
policy.
did you change some of those?
No, there wasn't any changes.
This was a no
By-
change.
Definition?
In the other ones, we're so minimal.
Right, right. So you're good at that,
Word.
because nobody else.
Mhm. Good.
Recorded and then we got YouTube. Says we need to take this out, so will you read it to us then?
Okay.
Thank you. I just said I'm part of the canvassing board, so I should be taking you on.
Okay.
Thank.
Okay. Oh, did you turn it on for me?
No.
No,
Yep,
Ooh.
you got it,
I'm learning, it takes me a while.
you got it, right there. Yep,
I hit
then just
record.
press button.
We still have that with all this?
We're gonna try both because this is our first go with
I didn't
this.
see the spaceships.
What's the map?
This whole deal is going to be recorded and uploaded to a YouTube channel that we're creating for this school.
Yep, so we'll have video and audio, as was requested previously. And so you'll be on candid camera as soon as we start.
That's really exciting.
The strategic plan, remember?
I
know,
I know,
I
it-
know,
I
I
know it's
know.
the right thing to do.
At your age, Tamara.
She's
Usually
not
has to
talking to
tell
you.
me that.
She's not talking.
I
Just for clarification.
I think I'd have learned my lessons by now.
I'm on call tonight.
Okay. Understand, leave in a hurry.
I've got 3 kids home alone.
All right, well, let's call the special canvassing meeting to order. It is 6:02. And roll call, we are all here. We probably need to add the item to administer the oath. Don't see that on here.
2.8.
2 point something. So I think we'll do that at this time before we move to item 3, so.
Okay.
Mr. Superintendent.
I'll be reading the canvassing board oath, and if you're in agreement, please respond with "I do." And so, you wanna raise your right hand, that'd be a good idea. And this is the canvassing board oath. I affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of this state, and that I will discharge faithfully the duties of the canvassing board for the office of school board member of Independent School District 332 to the best of my judgment and ability. If you're in agreement with that, please say "I do."
I do.
Okay.
Now we can move on. Consider approval of the resolution canvassing returns of votes of school district, school board, general election. We have the results. As you know, the top three vote getters were Tammy, Bob, and Bob. Tammy Kohacek, Bob Jensen, and Bob Woods. Sorry if I have those in the wrong order, or they need to be in any particular order. These are the three top vote getters. So anybody have any comments on the rest of the results?
Motion that we accept the resolution.
Okay, so you are moving that resolution?
Yes.
Okay. Second?
Second.
We have a motion by Scott and second by Ethan to adopt the resolution authorizing issuance. Is that the only motion we need? I'm sorry.
There's two resolutions.
Okay, so this one then is to, sorry. This one is to approve the this is to adopt the resolution canvassing returns of the votes of the school district, school board general election. Any discussion? If not, we will vote by roll call. Bob?
Aye.
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 And that motion passes, the resolution is adopted, 6 voting in favor, 0 opposed. Thank you. Next then, item 4, we have consider approval of the resolution authorizing issuance of certificates of election and directing the election clerk to perform other election-related duties. Somebody approve that resolution.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second. Okay, motion by Bob Woods, second by Tammy. Further discussion? Again, we will vote by roll, so Bob Jensen.
Aye.
Vincent? Aye.
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 And that resolution is adopted also with 6 voting in favor and 0 opposed. Alright, brings us to the close of the special canvassing meeting. Is there a motion for adjournment?
I'll move adjournment.
Second.
Motion by Bob Jensen, second by Ethan. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody. And,
It is odd.
okay. Alright. I'm one glad that our seating arrangement isn't changed. There was one individual who was looking forward to sitting next to you. No, I'm holding your hand. Like, I don't think so.
Tell me that's not real.
It's just Facebook.
I catch you on?
Seriously?
Seriously.
Bessie?
Yep.
What time?
About 8:10.
What world do we live in?
It's a flippant world.
I'm just leaving from.
So bizarre.
Okay, so I'll figure a spot.
So much so.
There, hopefully.
Either that or if there's no spots up
Yeah.
here, you just let me know where you're at and
Yeah.
I'll pick you up.
Yep.
Is the other one up?
Well, I certainly.
I saw it about.
To be honest with you, Bob, I think,
It's these ones, if you sign these, then I can give them to the
Mm.
winning candidates tonight and have that
Sure.
election.
literally,
What is it, 15th, right?
I watched signs go down that whole weekend.
Did you really?
Yes, I'm
Particularly where?
all over, even at the end of my street.
I
Two
didn't know
of
you
them
even
went down.
had any.
Oh, yeah, we had two in
I
the.
had only seen the one in town, but that's, well,
So,
probably.
and I was out.
My seminar was awesome today.
I was just gonna ask if you had a good seminar
Yep,
today.
there's only 10 people there, so.
Yeah. Hey,
So, I mean.
well, I said that
You
they,
need to thank.
How dumb do you think I am, Bob?
Sign those and then I can make them copies.
Ooh, let me.
Well, I just wanted to know who deserves credit, so.
You don't think there was any
Malice?
discussion?
Good.
I got my text message. Did
I
you
didn't think
see
you would do that
this?
at all.
Sure did, been watching it.
We can maybe say if, for further clarification, if you'd like to provide the reason or something like that.
well, nothing like
Fix it.
being separated and no one defeating themselves.
Well,
How's it going?
good strategies then.
Thanks.
Well, nobody was willing to bring it, nobody brought up the signs or anything, I was just waiting for somebody to.
Was this a text or what was this going on or? Maybe I'm blissfully unaware, sounds good.
Oh, I'm sorry, this is,
Yeah.
it was the blessing of being able to get your email.
Oh.
Yeah, that's.
Well, about 10 days prior to the election, there were so many, people that contacted me, not directly, indirectly. In that, there were statements made, there were, lies told, et cetera, et cetera. And, there was one of the community members that said, you know, if you provide the camera, I'll come in and videotape the board meetings, so that we can put them out on YouTube, so that we as community members have accurate information. So that when these people come around and lie, that we can refer, or you can refer us to a board meeting where this was discussed. And at our admin meeting on Tuesday, we talked about the audit, being a very good time, to put accurate information out there of what's truly going on within the district. Throughout the course of the election, I heard one candidate say, I just want the truth. And that person never once called the district office asking questions. They were getting their truth other places. And I have a piece here that I'm gonna go over with, you after the audit, after Carl presents the factual information of which you're very familiar with. I'm gonna refer to this chart over here again, with our C comparison of where we rank. As well as, Bob had a small business member here in the community send him a snapshot of a, set of, assets that we have within the district.
Oh, yeah.
And that those numbers showed up on the piece that was provided to you at the September board meeting. And we weren't sure where they were getting those numbers. Tammy took a look at that snapshot and she said, oh, I know what page this is. This is the assets. And all they were showing was the assets. They weren't showing the liabilities. And so they weren't showing the picture. And when I say liars, that's what I mean. If you don't provide all the information, if you withhold information, it's a lie. It's not actual facts. So
To deceive.
I'm gonna share that information with you after the audit as well.
Thanks, Tammy, and she made it really simple so I could even understand it, and that I was able to send that out, back out. It was really nice.
Of course, that was on Will's Facebook page too, you know.
All over. Sorry, I don't have Facebook, but I just knew it was all over, the phone calls I was getting.
So at our admin meeting, as part of the communications committee, we talked about that a little bit and Tim was willing to come and videotape. We borrowed the equipment from ECMEC to see if it's something that we wanna purchase for the future. It's pretty tough with just one microphone, and so we have multiple microphones, so we have around the table, so it can be picked up. Tim is gonna run the video and make sure that everything for throughout the course of the board meeting is videotaped and stuff, and we'll do what we can then to put that up, either with a link on the board, or on our website, to a link on YouTube, so that information is available. At 10 days of, I wasn't chasing the social media stuff as much as there were other people that were contacting me saying, what are we gonna do about this? What's the truth on this? How are we gonna respond to this and this and this and this? I know Randy responded to some stuff. I know Tammy responded to a number of things. Bob, I think I saw you on there a couple
My
of times.
packet was,
And then you have stuff, you know, it's so difficult to
That's coming around.
okay,
address when you have stuff.
And then this is your acceptance. That's to be hand delivered to you within 30 days of delivery of that.
It's an election,
If you sign,
statute.
you're all notarized.
So that's her, I mean.
Yep.
Going to the statute would address that, or is
Well,
that?
to the average person that has a half a brain, yes, no problem. I'm talking about let's see how many people voted for.
Right.
Yeah.
It's,
Well, if you think about it though, he didn't even know who to vote for or who to vote against.
That's what I
He,
thought.
he
You done
wanted
any homework?
the word incumbent on there so he could vote for the other people,
The
whoever they
year-
were.
Didn't matter.
The,
What
the
they were for,
weeks
what they've
of
done,
free
what their
papers
history
going
was.
out to this community that led up to it all. I actually
I'm
wrote a
sorry.
strongly worded
And when I
letter
got home
in
at
response to it last night.
5:30
Thank goodness
from
I
work, I
had
got
wrote
there
it
at
because
9.
when I got up this morning, I looked at it, I said,
I checked
that's
for
not
an
very
email
nice.
from
Maybe
you.
I throw that away.
I did it the other night, the other
Maybe you
night.
wanna pass it to me and I'll,
Smiley face
Yeah,
walking in
yeah,
the door.
nope, I had a plan, I just was in a conference all day, so I was,
should we address it? Should
I'll
we?
get you a copy of this too after I notarize it.
Should we?
The average
Maybe that's
person,
good. I worked hard for those votes.
Darn right.
You know, like, what are you doing, man?
And
The
not just
average
over the
person
past
writing
6
that
to 8
letter
weeks, it's,
knows
you know,
that he's.
That's your official certificate,
Okay.
certificate of election.
if you lose it,
And then
Yeah.
this is supposed to be delivered within 30 days of this, so I'm delivering it early if you wanna sign and date and sign and
Is
date,
it
and
okay
I'll
if I-
notarize it.
Is it okay if I have blue pen or does it need to be black? Okay.
Question, you did get my oath
Yes,
that I-
yep, otherwise I
under
couldn't
the
deliver this.
750,
Yep,
okay. I remember dropping it off, but
I got it.
think it was.
Well, Carl, I'm sorry we had to have you here so early.
certificate of election until I received it.
Well, I was actually,
All these little rules.
My 156 bucks.
And now you get to be a YouTube star.
yeah,
here we go.
pose.
Thank you.
I'll get you a copy of this.
Actually, the first time I was on the internet, I know for sure, was that one of my kids.
I didn't have to work today, so I didn't have to.
Oh, I was just
Come
looking
to
Care
at
what
it,
day it
I was
is.
thinking that times,
Across the dance floor.
I wrote.
And he got something like 600-700 likes.
So you did it well.
I said, this is my dad rocking out.
No, Craig, on that same line, is it time to just do enough's enough? You know, it's been hashed over, done over. Come to a meeting, come talk to anybody, but enough of this false accusation stuff and
Well, even including putting, you know, not necessarily the whole budgets or whatever, but it is tough not to, you know, in snapshot of it, but saying, here, you know, here's a typical page, boom, 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 here are the numbers, this is the number that we have. Our goal is to have a 20% fund balance, you know, that's it, we are currently at, what are we at,
Well, to make it,
21 or 22, you know, whatever.
to dumb it down, it has to be
Yeah,
such
well, and we
a
have other things out there.
brief or concise snapshot at a time. You can't
it
put a
feels
lot of
like it's
information
rigged,
out
like
there at
we
any
had
given time.
any control
Right,
whatsoever
glaze over.
of the election, like
Especially when they don't
Yeah.
want it.
it's.
The problem is they came with that, they came with, this sheet right off the Department of Education website.
Hello,
And I wasn't
Andy.
aware, because, it says it's audited results. And it's actually not the audited results until the auditor presents it to you and you accept it for year end. Okay, so this is what they show,
Going
and this
today.
shows, the number that,
First time weight bearing in 2 weeks, so.
36,000.
That's progress.
Progress, but
Cash.
moving forward.
Right, well, Tammy recognized it, and she said, well, that's on this page.
Or that
Which-
portion.
And the heavy back.
And here's the assets.
Yeah.
So the numbers that you can see here, and if you look at this really close, this says on this day, June 30th, we were a minus 1.59 million in cash, petty cash. It does show $7 million in investments for total assets of 12 million. But it also shows the total liabilities of over 10 million,
Poor girl has
with a
been
net fund balance of all
on crutches.
accounts at a little over 2.1 million.
So it's a total,
She's.
Well, it's just kind of
Funny that this is the number that
Deception.
they came up with that you should use to fix the building.
Or just, I don't know.
but at least we figured out where
Exactly.
that was coming from, cause it was stymieing.
And she loves basketball.
So Tammy put this together, sent it to Bob and to the small business owner that brought it forward. I went down and talked with him the next day, and he said, oh yeah, he said, once I saw the whole sheet, it took me 5 minutes to figure out what was going on. But
Helps.
and he said the name Ken Stump is the one that brought this in.
Mhm.
And then shortly thereafter, John Romehild was in and
I have not. no.
talking the same stuff.
Did you, any updates on swimming?
Yeah, Jenna moved on, but that's the only one I saw.
That was
Is
it.
that
That was it, Jenna moved on.
Sheila posted something, you know, out there?
Talked to Nate last night and he's like, yep, she says she's going, she wants to make the podium and. Hopefully.
Super exciting for that program though, I tell you
Yeah,
what.
no kidding. Have that many going. I don't know, in response to that letter, I can't, I'm sorry.
And I said, well, I know that I'll do it well, and he said, no, I know you will.
Yeah.
He said, but what I'm saying is that from what I understand, is that.
Karen, the other
Some things more than you probably need. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, I haven't just,
couple of back
You have a personal responsibility to go into your voting place and know who you're voting for. You can't ask somebody.
I was just letting
You know?
And the school board, it was in the
Really, really nice people.
Yeah, it really
Yeah,
made
right
me-
here.
a lot of people.
Really.
all of a sudden the other night, it was done. That's exciting.
It was. Yes.
We need it, we need it.
We hit a lot of best questions and we keep running through all this so that we get to look.
Yeah.
Some people, go there for years. Over the course of years. It's a lot. Today we had, there's a lot of college English, college chemistry.
We are. Right. It does. Oh my word. Sorry.
Kids actually know like say like this over. So I'm up to 2 or 3 students and we'll do like.
Here, sit by us.
Oh, absolutely.
This is all.
Oh, sure, now we move on to.
Oh,
Yeah, no.
Pull it out.
You know? Okay.
Well, not only that, but I'm glad I'm.
But you know what?
How many times I've come from across
It's
the
good fit
country, I got
now.
hair
So,
all over it. Yeah.
And to the point where I think we need to do something, and I told Craig, each month maybe isolate something on the agenda that is, especially when it falls under the consent agenda. Something that we could just give them in small bites. Just highlight something that's over
That's
time,
truthful.
that's over time. Well, of course, because everything is, but. No,
You just
but,
kinda get to the
I
end of your
just think-
rope on some of those
I just
things.
think there's no point in even trying to move forward with anything until we can get everybody back to square one and trust them. And I'm not advocating.
That's just
Right,
around, it's
and
more
it's
the
noise.
canvassing, so we all have to sign.
Okay.
I selected. So I just started down there. For some rhyme or reason.
Cause there isn't any rhyme or reason?
Yeah, oh yeah. What's that?
Is there any other?
Nope, it's, that's all the returns and it's,
I thought I had a good one, but.
Well, that's all right. Oh.
one for you, Karen.
Love
Okay.
it.
Oh my gosh, I have the animated snow right now for my keyboard and I love it. It's so good.
I did read enough to have an understanding.
I spent like, I was doing homework and I'm like, I don't know where it came from. I'm like,
Sign 'em
Jackie, they're
anywhere,
really
is that
cool,
what
like,
it
they're text, I wonder what it's called. And then I spent 15 minutes playing with it.
One of those things that Caroline said, I love it too, but the iron's in the fire, yeah.
If it seems like a good idea,
Yeah.
I mean, part of this is me.
Yeah.
Doing it last minute, thinking this is a good idea, planning for next year.
Yeah,
You know, if you-
Well, and exactly, and that's where we're at, and she's already stressing that, honey, we're good. It's just, thank goodness, thank you, boss.
Well, I thought of you
Yeah.
guys and.
And just like our living room, that's where, you know, we got what, 285 cases of chocolates delivered yesterday. And then all the other Girl Scouts are coming in and, you know, boom, 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 and she's, well, you can get this. I got through 2 of the sheets yesterday, and I ended up in a pile on the floor, it just sold, yeah, 2 lunches.
He's sitting there,
I know.
so he just,
Luckily, an Einar came home and so they were able to do it. There's a lot of movement in that, for me, I literally, just, but yeah, and it's things like that, it does, and it's like, bless her heart, she is so good, we have sacks and here and there.
Is it something
I
that?
don't remember anybody's name, just, but I can tell you.
I can certainly see it next year if we have it with a whole of girls, yep, all of that stuff. Yeah, yep, and then we could do it and get it onto the girls' schedules, you know, even to, okay, where we do campus at, get certain girls out there to manage, you know, their staff at a certain time.
Come up with a plan.
Yeah, come with a plan, yeah.
No, I think that's, I mean, he kind of grew all these pumpkins and we just didn't really have a good plan for what to do with them. So
Then come smash them in my woods in the next day or so, so I can get other out, you know,
can't eat over them.
yeah. Problem is, I got a neighbor that does it with the whole gravity box. Funny, all those beers disappeared. Where would they go?
Different story.
That's, yeah.
So,
So this is.
Except for the one that lives right here. Oh,
This
okay.
is the operating.
And Mike
I know.
Fuller here, and then
Grinding on
Craig
me
Grace
and
here,
I'm
and
like.
Paul Satterfield, you know, boom, 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 house, house, house. Go to mine, a buck all over.
Yeah.
And then the other two don't, well, they're right here, they don't move, you know, they're
They know
safe.
right where to be.
Yeah, and exactly, it's like, you know which, especially down there, you know, like here and here and here, and it's amazing if that first weekend.
Yeah, that's what kind of tricky.
You'll see them, you know, I can drive home now, and I can count a dozen, but.
Yeah, it's after us.
Yeah. Yeah, this guy saw a nice big butt yesterday coming home, that was, you know, right from the one, she's a 3-leg, she must be
Exactly.
in the summer, so she's there, but so is the twins. But the buck was- it was within 50 feet of where I saw her 2 hours earlier, so I was like, he's, you know.
Not happening.
He's after himself.
Easy prey.
Yeah, and, yeah, she's cool. Yeah.
She's not running.
Give her, man, I mean, that was back in those June, those are little, really little, when she got hit, she's not feel for it. And it's not coming.
I didn't get a set of
It's up to see the whole thing. It's up. And she's
There, I put one out there.
tough.
Survival is better.
Everybody's got one.
I
except-
had enough for everyone, other.
What do we look,
Yeah.
oh, there's the correspondence. Yeah, we can. Yeah. Bob and I
I
can
had one
share.
in every
Yeah,
spot.
you take a look and,
Okay.
I'll
Yep.
give you mine.
I did most of my looking line stuff at home. Where they could.
Oh, plus it. Isn't it the same thing that we pull up on?
Yeah.
Sure.
Alright, we can call this meeting to order. Everybody, welcome and please join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, glad to have all of you here tonight, and we will move on to roll call. Please note all in attendance, board members are all here. Next we have agenda approval, and no additions, I don't believe.
Make a motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
Motion by Bob Woods, second by Scott. Any discussion? All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We will move to Mustang Spirit Recognition. Mr. Nelson, would you like to go first with Mustang Spirit?
I can go first.
Mr. Wall?
We're pulling Bree up from the elementary, and we have conferences tonight, so Lane's
Perfect.
going down the floor, by herself, but Bree, you wanna stand up? Ours goes to Bree and to Lane for all their hard work. We've had a number of different things that we've worked hard on this year, that they've organized, Veterans Day program, our fun run, which we had never done in-house before, family reading night, what else am I missing?
Just
Open house, just
everything.
there's days where I'm like, I'm gonna get some work done, I'm gonna get there early, pull up at 5:45 in the morning, Bree's vehicle's there. And days where we say we're gonna stay late, and Lane's there until 5:30, 6 o'clock that night, so they work incredibly hard and we don't say it enough, so we appreciate everything that you do for us, both of you. Thank you. Oh, and last night she was recognized at St. Cloud for her accomplishments as well for the support staff recognition.
Well deserved,
Great
and
night last night.
congratulations on that as well, and thanks to both you and Lane, and appreciate your commitment and dedication.
Thanks, Bree.
And she has to
Yeah,
back
gotta
to
go back to
work.
work.
Yeah.
Alright, Mr. Nelson?
Yes. Nancy, would you mind standing up? All right, I would like to recognize Nancy Peterson. She has helped us out by volunteering to be our nurse at the Halloween 5K for the last several years. Ms. Stevens, would you talk a little more about that?
I think, well, we kind of realized that there was a lot that went into putting in a 5K, and one of those was like safety that we and so it was fantastic when Lily was like, I bet my grandma will do it, and she has come every single year, so it's been fantastic, and reminds us that, hey, maybe you need to send somebody out on the course to make sure everybody's fine, and takes care of people and is just there and always in a great mood and volunteers, and it makes a little bit more legitimate to have a 5K with some medical personnel on hand. Molly, did you have?
We just visited for most of the time and it was really fun having another person to talk to.
It was fun for me too, you know, it's fun to really be in a place where the kids are, where they're open and talking, and, you know, it's good for an old grandma to keep my youthful.
And thank you for your professional assistance with my son. And so,
That was an odd one.
yeah, very glad you're there, and so,
Just a reminder, we are being videotaped
Yes, I know,
tonight,
that's-
so
yeah,
share whatever you feel is
Yeah.
appropriate.
it was
Thank you.
hobbled in.
Thank you, Nancy. Have a good week. It's a perfect way to stay connected to the kids, to be part of a lot of those activities, and so it's a win-win. Thank you. Any other Mustang Spirit from either high school or elementary school? Does anybody else have any Mustang Spirit? Okay, we will move on then to the first open forum. Is there anybody here that would like to address the board tonight? Seeing none, we will move on to next item, which is a presentation of the 2017-2018 financial audit. So I will call on Carl Nordquist from Althoff and Nordquist, excuse me, Carl. Just conveniently dropped your name.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Carl Nordquist from Althoff and Nordquist. First of all, I'd like to thank you for choosing our firm for this year's annual audit. Are there any questions before I do a brief overview of the basic financial statements and then the management trend letter? Okay, on page 4 on the basic financial statements, this would be the independent auditor's report. And in particular, I'd like to just point out at the top of page 4 where it says opinions. It says, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities, business type activities, each major fund, etc. Basically, this is considered a clean audit opinion in layman terms. We did not have any findings or any issues that we had to bring up to anyone or anywhere, send any letters off or anything like that. So everything looked pretty good. We didn't have any issues or any problems. Anytime I asked Tammy for anything, we got it right away. Everything went well, went quickly, as it should when everything's in order. So that was the good part. Then starting on a couple pages after that is a management discussion and analysis. And it runs through a variety of various pages until page 12. I'd just like to point out that some information there, factors bearing on the district's future. Basically, this section is just information written by management to the readers of the financial statement, so they have an idea of what's coming into the future, what the district sees happening, what's going on possibly at the state level and stuff like that. So it is a good idea to read through that. Now then on to page 17, 18, and 19. This would be the statement of net position and the statement of activities for the district as a whole. This would mean that this is not fund accounting on the traditional fund accounting method. Generally, it's from the funds and then it's all taken to full accrual basis. So in this section, you'll notice that there's capital assets. There's also some other numbers. Now I included a sheet, a little extra on the side sheet that looks like this, because I just wanted to talk about this a little bit. The numbers that are on the beginning balance are the 2017 numbers on the audit report for the deferred outflows, the net pension liability, and the deferred inflows. Now these are all numbers that are derived from information that are given to the district and supplied to us from the Teachers Retirement Association and Public Employees Retirement Association. This information is there on the report so the readers of the financial statements can have an understanding of what the district's proportional share or proportionate share of the total liability in the future for pension plans. Basically, the pension plan at the state level is a little bit underfunded, about 10 or 15%. So this will give you an idea where those numbers are. So you'll notice the net pension liability, the beginning balance started at 40 million. The ending balance actually went down to 33 million. The bigger change has to do with the deferred outflows at the top, which this section would be considered an asset. So it started out at 24 million and dropped all the way down to 3.8 million. You can see that Teachers Retirement Association had an adjustment there of 22 million. The reason I'm showing this to you is because if you think about it, these numbers are not on your fund accounting books whatsoever. But on the balance sheet, when you start changing those numbers, then that statement of activities has to change too. So effectively in that bottom right-hand corner, where it says 20 million, basically you booked approximately $20 million in pension expense this year. And it all has to do with the change of these numbers. There's no place else for it to go. It has to go in either a revenue or an expense. So that's why there's a change in the numbers on the next page that look a little different than the last couple of years. I just wanted to make sure I show this to you. As a side note on this, the district has no control over those numbers. That's all put out by the Para and Terra board. The only control the district has is that the district did make its monthly payments for both of those retirement programs each and every month right on time, just like it was supposed to, which we actually do audit to make sure that it is done because it was part of a pension thing. So, that being said, that part's okay. The question I get quite a bit is, does the district owe this money? The answer would be no. It's all held in trust by the state of Minnesota. And they will make adjustments as they deem necessary going down the road. I did hear recently, there's a discussion of possibly raising probably 0.25 or something like that, one or both of the contributions. The one concern about that is we all know that if they raise the district's portion of the amount, they will probably never reduce it again. They will move up and down occasionally with everybody else, but the district, usually if they raise the district one, it'll never go down again. So it is something to keep in mind. I have just heard a little rumbling about it. I have no idea if that's gonna happen or not. So-
And just to add on to that, like Carl said, this is not a negotiable rate, it's set by the legislature. And goes from a recommendation from the TRA board, and then we're dictated what that rate is going to be. And so we, with the TRA, it's a matching piece, and so the amount that's withheld, if it's at, what is it now, 7.5%?
Just, yeah, 7.5.
7.5. So 7.5% of each teacher's wages are withheld each month, as well as then the district matches that with 7.5%. And that's the payment then that goes into the TRA piece. So we have no control over that other than we do or do not make the payment. And as Carl said, we've never missed a payment.
No. And just to put it in perspective, I did get this question here earlier this week at another school district. Well, how bad is it? I mean, it's a small school district and they were looking at their number and it was $4 or $5 million and they were getting kind of excited. And I said, well, in the grand scheme of things, the state of Minnesota is somewhere around 10 or 15% underfunded. The last time I saw the number, which is about a year ago or so, Maryland was 85% underfunded.
Oh my goodness.
Actually, the state of Minnesota would be ranked right up there at the top of how well they've handled their pensions. So this is just the Governmental Accounting Standard Board wanting the taxpayers to realize what that position is. Because there are other areas in this country where that number would be a lot bigger. Just trying to let everybody know how this situation is. Any questions about that? So, we're not even done here, actually. We go to page 18 and 19. And you will see where the expenses start. The regular instruction is at 29 million. So we move all the way over to 2018 and 17. You can see that it's 28 million versus 15 million last year. Knowing you would see the big difference in that number and lots of questions, I figured I better cut that off right away and just explain to you what's going on there. Of course, some of that is spread out amongst a couple of the other numbers, but the lion's share, of course, would be in regular instruction because that's where most of the expense would be. It'd be all in salaries and expenses. So that kind of explains how we start when we go back to page 17. It starts with a net position last year of a negative $5 million and ends up basically in a net position of negative 23 million. And it's directly related, most of it, the lion's share of it's all the pension, the change in the pensions. And I was actually taken back by it. Robert and I were taken back by it. My business partner, and we both got in contact with the Terra board, the Para board, and then the gentleman from the MD&E to find out what the heck is going on. And every school district's having the same issue. The big surprise. Terra was the big one, TRA. That's a pretty big change. So, any questions from there? Okay, then moving on to pages 20 and 21. This would be the balance sheet of all the governmental funds. You can see that the net fund balance for the general fund is 4.5 million, which is 21.4%, I believe it is. So the district did stay above as 20% fund balance policy. In case you're wondering, I get this question every now and again. The 4.5 million is basically good enough to cover about 3.5 months worth of expenses at your standard expenditure rate.
Which is good business practice, which is why we want to be in that neighborhood.
Yes, for a school district, it can be too high and it definitely can be too low. Once you start to dip below, you get around that 10 or 15%, then you start running into problems because a business owner knows, or generally what happens with most businesses, you get a fairly, not necessarily stable monthly revenue, but it kind of goes like this, as opposed to the school district, it goes like this, and basically it's 3 times a year you get lots of money. And the rest of the time you have to make do until the next check, and that's where the problem comes in, because you could run short of funds to cover payroll and items like that. Okay. So then on pages 24 and 25, this is the one everybody usually looks at the most. The combined statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. You'll see that the general fund had $19 million in revenue, and the total governmental activities altogether was 22 million. Less expenses of 32 million, shows a total loss for all the funds of 9.7. And then, of course, if we look at the building and construction fund, you see that's where most of the expenditures were for the $11.1 million in expenditures. So therefore, we show that the general fund actually had a slight increase in its fund balance of 547,000. Food service did well again this year at 28, community service at 46. So, based on the numbers, how I look at it, how the district and the size of the district, and this fund balance, right now I would say that the district's in a pretty good spot. Well managed, in good shape. There is one thing I wanted to point out, I believe it's on page 47. Yes, there's note number 12, unearned revenue. You would see on the balance sheet, there is a number on there for unearned revenue in the building and construction fund. And then for the building construction fund is related to the prepaid lease from First Light Health Systems for the lease of the wellness center. So the revenue will be realized annually for the lease over the next 24 years for a total of 25 years, because you already did have some realization at the end of June 30th of 2018. So I just thought because that number was in there, we needed to put that in there for the readers of the financial statements. So that fund at the moment does show a loss. So when you look at it, basically over the course of time, that 4.2 million that's on, when we look at page 20, the 4.2 million there for the unearned revenue will be gained back as revenue over the next 24 years, and eventually that fund balance will end up being a positive number. It just will take a while. Just when I was looking at all the stuff and everything, I thought, well, we better, with discussion with Tammy and Mr. Schultz, that we should probably get that footnote in there, just so it's explainable. Okay. And a couple of things I'd just like to point out here. The pension plan footnote has gotten longer and longer. And on page 45 would be the capital assets. Just to give you an idea what the increases and decreases were in the capital assets. You can see that $27 million were added this year in the new buildings. $14 million was deducted, and mostly, as you can see, that was the construction in progress, a reduction there. How that works in the accounting world is generally when you have something under construction, you technically put it in an account called construction in progress, but you don't start depreciating that particular asset or group of assets until it's completed. Then you take it out of that account and put it in the appropriate areas where it's supposed to be, then you begin the depreciation over time from there. That's why you have that account, is just so you can keep track of what's going on. So generally, if you have a building, construction project like you had at the school district here where it lasts more than 1 year, that's how you end up with the construction in progress. And you can take it out of there generally when it's substantially completed. That's accountants like that sort of verbiage, I guess, so. So then, starting on page 48 and running for multiple pages after that, is the pension plan footnotes. That has to do with Teachers Retirement Association and the Public Employees Retirement Association. If you have not read these, I would go ahead and take at least a little time to read some of it, probably not all at once if you don't want to. But there is a lot of information in there that is, you kind of need to know, so it kind of makes sense. How they come about trying to decide what the footnote, what the information is, how they're gonna put it out, what the tables are, how they're using that, what the interest rates are, what their assumptions are. It's all actuarial accounting, so it gets rather tricky, but it makes sense once you start to get your head wrapped around it. One of the changes they made, I believe it was this year, was that they changed the tables that they use for euphemistically called death tables. I believe the spouse is now 4 years longer than the husband. So they list it that way, husband and spouse, that's just the way they've always done it, but now the spouse is listed at 4 years shorter than, the husband is listed at 4 years shorter than the spouse. And then when you look at that, that of course changes what the old long-term liability would be based upon whoever's earning the money, and then of course the longevity side of it. So then on pages 68 and 69, this is just some tables, required supplementary information for TRA and PRA, just to give you an idea what the change in the numbers are and what it has been over the last few years. Okay, then, let's see, budget to actual starts a couple pages after that. Actually on page 70 for the general fund. One of the things I'd like to note is that based upon the actual total revenue and the final budget for revenues, it came within 801,000. That's really good. And then when you look at the expenditures, the total expenditures basically was over budget by 224,000. So when you start doing the math, obviously 224,000, a rather small percentage of the total. So that's, again, excellent budgeting. Keeping control of all the costs. Then the last couple items I'd like to point out in this large report would be on page 86 and 87. This is called the Schedule of Expenditures for Federal Awards. And the district this year had just over $1,063,000 in federal expenditures. And you can see what the different programs are. The child nutrition was $419,000. Title I, Part A cluster was $329,000, and then some miscellaneous ones from there. Because the district has more than $750,000 of expenditures, this is an additional reporting requirement the district has to do. Because I do get that question, why is this even in here? And it's because the federal government wants to know. So we actually have to do some additional procedures and steps just to make sure the money's being spent in the proper way. Such as we reviewed the PARs and stuff like that to make sure the personal activity reports are completed and signed in a timely manner and stuff like that. Any questions? Then the management letter and trend analysis. This is just give you some graphical representation of some of the numbers. Do laugh about it once in a while because being what I do, when I look at the numbers, I see the graph. For those of us that don't look at numbers, the graph works better, so we have the graphs.
Thank you.
So you can see on the first one on page 2, you can see over the last 5 years what the total ADM served, which is the student population, has been for the last 5 years. It's been kind of going up and down a little bit. It's pretty much about the same, down a little bit. Then we go on to page 3, we can see what some of the total revenues are for the general fund sources of revenue only here. But it breaks it down between the property taxes, state sources, and other. It used to be, probably 10 years ago, the local property tax number would be decidedly larger than it is now. Then the state revenue number would be a lot smaller. So that is the one major change over the last few years. And on page 4, kind of gives you all the last 5 years together in gross numbers to show you how the fund balance has been and how it's been progressing over the last 5 years. Then you can also see in the chart down below how the revenue and expenditures have kind of stayed together over the course of time. All in all, I think the district has done a very good job of controlling the expenses and keeping a hold of everything. And then on page 5, this is the fund balance and cash investments graph. Every now and again, I have to point out on this one that fund balance and cash are not necessarily the same thing. Just because you have some cash doesn't mean you get to spend the cash. Mainly because, as you know, there's liabilities coming at you and things like that. I do get questions about that every now and again of why we can't take money from here and do this. And as you know, you cannot take any money out of debt service. Everything in the building construction actually has to be spent on the construction. In community service, it all has to stay in there. Actually, I have seen it happen once, in case you were wondering. In community service, when they were actually making too much money in a particular program, I believe it was adult education, had to do with the driving thing, teaching adults how to drive. They were doing so well, all the districts were sending them there because they had a really good program. The state requested the money back out of their fund balance. Yes, because as you know, in community service, if you have money for ECFE, that's where it has to be spent, just that. So that this program kept building up so much money, the state finally took it back because it couldn't spend it anywhere else. Thought that was really nice. So, good. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? If after further reading, you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to give me a call. I'll help you out in any way I can. Again, I'd like to thank you for choosing our firm, and do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
you.
and it's always nice to have a clean audit and in as understandable terms as is possible for people like me. So, any other comments or questions for Carl before we move on?
Thanks, Amy and Craig, for working
Right.
and providing everything to you, and
Yes.
as I said, makes our job as board members a whole lot easier knowing that we have that there, so.
And Tammy carries the bulk of the load during the audit, preparing and finding and spot checks and availability. So for that entire week that they're here, she's pretty much at their beck and call. As well as then once they leave, they take the information, they ask questions, and she spends a lot of time. So Tammy does put in a lot of time through this process. And Carl mentioned it just briefly, but I'd also like to point out, again, and just reinforce that all of these dollars are tracked. Everything is tracked electronically, revenue and expense. As he mentioned, you can't take money from one pot of money and spend it in another place. So construction money cannot be used for maintenance. The construction money was for a voter-approved piece, and it was very spelled out and approved by the Department of Education. And so if there's money left over in an elementary construction project, it can't be spent on high school maintenance. That it can't happen. If it does, then we're in violation, and then we run the risk of losing our license, and we're not interested in doing that. So we make sure. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, a lot of this stuff wasn't done as detailed and tracked as tightly as it was. So if we got to the end of the year on an $18 million budget, we were within $500, we just called it good enough. Now they don't do that any longer. It's so electronically that if we don't round the dollars the right way, they come back after us for $1 if we're off in any one of those pots of money. So it's tracked very, very tightly.
Carl, is there a train, I mean, this is a very complicated, detailed report and appreciate that. Do you, as an accountant, have to get special training to do school audits?
Yes, excellent question, actually. First of all, as a certified public accountant, I am required to keep my license, not get in any kind of trouble, to maintain 40 hours every year, which is a full week of classes. And then to do governmental auditing, I also have to maintain within that 40, 24 hours every year directly related to governmental auditing. And to take one of those classes, basically it's 3 days out of 5, when you're talking 24 hours. It's a very detailed thing. And then, of course, doing what I do, because I do single audits as well, I have 3 school districts that have a single audit. I also make sure I pick up a class or 2 every year on that. So I generally average about 50 to 55 hours every year in classes, because 40 just isn't enough, because I also do tax returns once in a while. So in answer to your question, yes, we do actually have to have the training. So then if I were to bring a new staff member per se, they do not have to know how to do anything when I walk in the door, but I have to sign off on everything. And then as time goes on, a very short amount of time, they also have to start taking the classes. And then that's how they get to know. So when I first started doing audits, I was under the wing of Marcus Altai. And then of course from him, I learned how to do it, and how not to do things. And then from there, as a CPA, that's just, the stuff we have to do.
And it's this is above and beyond what a CPA would normally do as a personal accountant. I mean, most CPAs that don't get the training you have wouldn't be able to fully comprehend what's going on here. So your average person off the street going through these numbers is gonna have a difficult time.
They can, but if they take their time or have some working understanding of how the balance sheet and income statement works together, to me, that's always been the bigger item. It's one of my things, you might say, is that I sometimes wonder why so many people don't understand how a balance sheet works. Because it's important to know just in everyday life. If you go out as a business owner and you borrow $1 million, your taxes means nothing. So you pay back $100,000 next year. You just had $100,000 of income. And a business owner will tell me, I don't have any money, and I'll say, you owe money on the 100,000 because you had to make the 100,000 to pay the loan back. And it wasn't income when you got the loan, so you can't take that as a deduction when you pay the loan. See, it's all the working knowledge, and once you get your head wrapped around that, then I think that even though you may never have read these financial statements before, or any of them like that, you can begin to understand where the numbers are going. But it takes time. And it is governmental accounting. Need I say more?
Some of it is for the better and some of it maybe not so much, but.
There's an argument against the pensions, and there's an argument
say the
for
whole
having that pension
pension
information that I was
accounting
discussing
is a bit-
early,
Thank you.
Anything else?
That was a good question. Yeah.
Well, I'd like to take a few minutes, if
Yes,
it's
go
okay.
ahead,
Take that phone call quickly.
Okay. Would you like me to stall until you?
No, go ahead.
Yeah. Those are big numbers. we're talking 18 million, 19 million revenue expenses, we're talking 35 million, we're talking 20 million in pension expenses. To the average person that doesn't deal with a business of that size, doesn't understand those millions of dollars. We try to make sure every year, and if you looked at the chart there that showed the revenue and expense, very tight, balanced budgets every year for the last 5 years. And you can go back for the 5 years before that, and it's very similar. That's what we try and do during the budgeting process, is bring you, as a board, a budget that's going to be balanced. Well, we have to project the revenue, we have to project the expenses. Well, what I like to show you is I like to show you how that compares to other school districts in Minnesota. Not just trying to grasp and get your head around all those numbers, but what does that mean when we're talking about Malacca or Ogilvie or Minneapolis or Edina or whatever? Schools for Equity and Education, which Scott and I are going down to a meeting tomorrow, puts out every year an annual ranking, a revenue rankings piece, and takes into account those various sources, local taxes, state aid, as well as then the federal and the other income that we generate, such as gate receipts and that type of stuff. So we get this money then through the revenue projections, and we spend that money. You've seen the past couple of months, you've seen what the student achievement is, and how that has advanced and progressed. You've seen where we're at in a number of other indicators within the district, and we're doing very, very well. Well, how are we doing for bang for the buck is the question then, that comes along with the audit, and the amount of revenue and the expenses we have. So Schools for Equity and Education, and I know you've seen this before, but some of you haven't. They take a look at your general education money, your referendum and location optional revenue, your special education revenue, and your facilities money, that LTFM money that just came into play a few years ago. And then they take that and they divide your total district dollars that you get in through your operating revenue by the number of students that you have, and then they come up with $1 per student. So that you can compare, so that you can't just say, well, this district has a $5 million budget, this one has an $18 million budget, this one has a $57 million budget. What does it cost per student to educate them and get them through 12, 13 years of kindergarten of school, up to school time? So, it's gonna be difficult because my paper's wrapping a little bit here. The board, you've seen this before, so you know where I'm going with this. I'm gonna tip it this way a little bit. So here's the 330 school districts in the state of Minnesota, starting with the highest dollar per student numbers at the top. And those districts are Hendricks, Campbell Tinta, Tri-County, Herman Norcross, Pine Point, South Koochiching, Grigla, Lancaster, and Kitson Central. The smaller your district, the more per student it generally costs, because there's requirements that you have. You have to have a superintendent, you have to have custodians, you have to have all these basic services, you have to have transportation. So these districts up here are spending $16,000 or more per student up here. The next group is at $15,000 or more per student. The next group in Minneapolis, I pointed that out because now we're into one of the big districts, is in the $14,000 per pupil or more than 14,000. The closest district around here that falls into that bracket is Onamia. Here's Onamia on this list of 330 school districts. Here's the 13,000. Here's the 12,000. I pointed out St. Cloud is one of the bigger districts in there. Here's Edina. Now we're down below 12,000, from 11 to 12,000. Here's Edina. Here's Pine City. Here's Isle. Here's Hinckley Finlayson. Here's East Central. Here's Malacca. Here's Ogilvie, North Branch, Elk River, Cambridge Isani, and here's Mora at 255. There's 254 districts out of 330 that generate more revenue per pupil that they spend on an annual basis. So bang for the buck, and I think Ethan had put it at one point as in the top 10% of being in the lowest cost per pupil in the state of Minnesota. So we've moved up a little bit. We were at about 290th previously. We have moved up to 255th. Now, districts that I pointed out, other local districts here, Graham and Rush City, both just passed an operating referendum. that will bring them up next year, up above where Mora is. And so the only one below us then will be Foley on a per pupil basis. So when you take a look at bang for buck, the student achievement that we've been showing, the safety that we've been showing, all of the various components within the district, technology, transportation, all of those components, we're operating at this level right here on a per pupil basis. And so when Carl says this is a well-managed district, I have to agree with him. Now, one of the things that makes it very difficult is there are people out there that say that's not the case. That prior to the election, there were people out there making misstatements, miscommunications, and I'm gonna say blatant lies. One of those was reported to Mr. Jensen by a small business owner here in the community. And so they showed us of these pieces that Carl's just been talking about the audit. They showed this much. They showed just the assets of liquidable assets that the district had at the end of our book closing on June 30th, which at that time, on that particular day, that's just one snapshot. But you have to not just take on a balance sheet, not just show your assets, you gotta show the whole page, which also includes your liabilities. So there were people running around saying that, well, they've got $7 million in investments that they can spend to fix the buildings, when that's not the case. Those investments are in pots of money that can only be spent for certain things. You get down to about here on the page, LTFM money, and that's the money that's dedicated for long-term facility maintenance, and we have $768,000 in there. We also, as Carl had mentioned, have a fund balance that parts or a portion of that is unrestricted and could be spent to fix the buildings. However, it's not anywhere near 5 million or 7 million or 10 million or any of those other numbers that these people were going out with, showing this much of the sheet when this is what it actually makes it up. So I just wanted to point that out for the board members, community members, if you're interested, I have extra sheets like that as well, so that we can put some of these lies, because they're not just mistruths. If somebody only gives you half the information, it's a lie. And they're lying to the people of the community. And I just wanna set the record straight on that.
Thank you, and it's a complex thing when it comes to school finance, but it doesn't help when you take a number in isolation and try to use it or spin it to suit a narrative, and so appreciate anybody with questions, always checking for verification. Guess what we're just reinforcing again is that it's a school district that is about transparency. There are no secrets. It's all public information. We are subject to an annual audit. We have oversight, and everybody involved is doing their due diligence, and need to thank Mr. Schultz again for the sound management of the past almost 10 years. The variance, when you look at $801,000 or apply the percentage, whatever you wanna do, it's stellar. And it's year after year, year over year, we just always feel that we are able to count on people that are in the positions to do this for us, Craig and Tammy and Carl. Yeah, there's questions, and that's a good thing, but when there are, just get your numbers verified, so. Thank you for presenting that. And that wasn't intended for everybody to be able to read, but it's to show that that is the way the state looks as far as school districts, the number of them in the state, and how we compare in place, not to read what each line says, so. Point taken. Any other comments or?
Do you need a
Questions?
motion to?
Yeah, we do.
Someone.
But, okay, so we have a motion to approve the 2017-18 financial audit. Second by Tammy. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Just in case, it's going to forget.
Thank you, Carl, appreciate it.
That was the.
All right, we will move on then to the consent
So it says
agenda.
on
Are
the
there
side
any
fund
requests to
balance,
remove any items from the consent agenda?
And that's all, this would be the general fund.
Yeah.
And this would be all.
One minute.
No, just.
Did you have something before?
I just wanted to, to state, and that for the record, when we were talking, or when Craig was saying that, they wanted to show the assets of 12,637,000. Our unassigned fund balance as of that date that they pulled this was 3.487, which wasn't even the 4.5 that they said, that's the overall stuff, but then there's monies restricted within there. That 3.487 is that roughly 3 months worth of expenses to get us through, cause we only get paid basically twice a year.
Well, and the other
Yeah.
piece to that is that the state doesn't have to pay us.
No,
Doesn't have to
exactly,
pay us
and
on any
they,
kind of timeline.
they have withheld
We've been there.
before,
Right.
and that's why we are very guarded of that number, because our expenses don't stop just cause the revenue doesn't come in.
What people don't remember is that we, as a district, have had to go to local banks and made loans to pay for our salaries. When we weren't in this kind of financial position. And then when the state did pay us, they didn't pay us the interest that the banks were charging us. So it's in our best interest to keep a fund balance of 20% so that we never get into that position again.
This is us being very fiscally conservative, very fiscally responsible.
Fiduciarily responsible.
Yes.
Mhm. And based on what we were showing there, we are efficiently run and, or very efficiently run operations. Okay. Thank you, Scott. Anything else? Otherwise, we will move on to the consent agenda. And if there are no requests to remove any items, entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
Sick.
Motion by Bob Woods, second by Ethan, and just one change under personnel items, and it's in your packet for Linnell Parker's leave of absence request. It is FMLA, that's a change. Also, the effective date is a change, 1/3/19. Is the new date. Acknowledging and accepting gifts and donations. Neighborhood National Bank, $125 for CAP. More Education Foundation has several there, $100 for elementary classroom grant, and another $100 for elementary classroom grant, and an $86 one for elementary classroom grants. So appreciate those and acknowledge them. And if there is no further discussion on the consent agenda, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, consider approval of transportation request to use 4-ways instead of 8-way system on right-hand turns. We have some more information, I bet.
We do.
This was
Actually-
tabled from last month.
Actually, the whole situation I'm happy to report is kind of dissolved itself.
Do you wanna share? Please.
I'm glad to share. So, after many, emails back and forth with Lieutenant Rue, I was kind of enlightened on some of, I'm like, oh, all right. So, if you are in a turn lane with your 4-ways or your 8-ways on, after you make that stop, by law, you have to turn right. So, why would we even do a stop in a turn lane? Why would we even do that? So after Chip and I, discussing it and looking at it and trying to figure it out, we were able to change some things and we don't have to do those anymore. So it kind of resolved itself in regards to it, so, I don't need an approval.
Okay.
Perfect. Never mind.
So we don't need to act on anything.
You do not need to act on
Related
anything.
to
You've got
right-hand
it,
turns.
it kind of like, I don't like, it just kind of like fixed itself.
Made sense, huh?
Easiest piece of pie that I ever had to eat, so.
Okay, I wasn't aware, maybe I missed the communication where we could delete that item from the agenda, but in this case then, we will do it now.
Yep.
Or
And I don't
we
need
will
an
not need
approval on
action
it.
on that, so.
But Bob, for your question, you asked about how if you're in the right-hand turn with your 8 ways on, if traffic does have to stop, absolutely. If there's 3 lanes of traffic, you have to stop. The only way you do not have to stop is if it's a divided highway.
Sure.
And you're on the opposite side.
And yeah,
Yes,
Right.
a divided highway, say if I'm going northbound and I'm in the turn lane with my 8-way system on and there's somebody in going, did I say northbound? I'm going northbound and they're heading southbound. They don't have to stop because it's a divided highway. Everybody on your side does have to stop by law,
Alright,
so.
thank you.
But I made sure I found that one out.
All
There
the
was a lot of
scenarios,
different
yeah.
emails, he was very knowledgeable, and I was like, oh, well, that totally makes sense, why didn't I like think of that, so
thank you.
I learned something new.
Perfect.
Thank you for that, so we will move on then to the next item, which is consider approval of the Education Minnesota or certified seniority list as of 6/30/18, and we need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Ethan, second by Tammy, any discussion? If not all in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion passes unanimously. Alright, consider approval of updates to superintendent's contract as recommended by the school board executive committee. Would you like to make a motion so we can discuss?
I'll make a move. I'll second.
Okay, motion by Ethan, second by Scott, discussion. We met an executive committee and, Scott or Ethan, do you wanna share any results of that? There were,
Yeah, no, me either, I was just looking too, saying,
Should I give you a summary?
yeah, thank you, yeah.
I have a
I'm just-
question.
Oh, go ahead then.
It was
Yeah.
3 different items,
Yep.
a increase in contribution to 403B. And buyback of sick leave, accrued sick leave time. And then a bonus for construction projects of over a certain dollar amount. We felt that Craig, having gone through the last however long with the construction project, then was in line for a bonus, so to speak. Compensation for the time and the dollar amount, I think that we used was $15 million or more in a construction project, well, it was exceeded that. And as a board, we're all aware of the amount of time that was consumed by that or that fell on Craig over the course of the building of the facilities up at Trailview. And,
Also took into consideration neighboring districts and where those superintendents are compensated at. We had pulled together
guidelines.
good information there.
So,
And some of the base language for the items came from the administrative contract that was negotiated after my contract was negotiated as well. So it's reflective of that as well.
Was it the 15 million in theirs too?
I believe theirs might have, was it 15 or 10?
50.
15?
10, I thought, that's what
I
sticks in
think
my
it's
head.
10 in theirs. I
Yeah.
put 15 in the superintendent's contract.
And the contribution for the something 03 or,
403B.
thank you, was about the
That's
same?
similar to what the other superintendents in the area are at.
Not your current administration? Would it be okay for us to know those numbers?
Sure. The 403B piece was at 3,000 and went to 5,000 per year.
sick leave buyback was 2, how many days?
That's at retirement, if over 10 years service in the district.
All of it buyback or
Yes.
percentage? All.
I had it somewhere else.
And that was all consistent with our surrounding, it's the same, how do I word this?
Comparable.
Comparable to the same ones that we
That we compare ourselves to.
compare the teachers to and the administration.
Districts of like size in central Minnesota.
Okay. Just needed to know.
Anything else?
I think I'm okay.
Alright, ready to vote? We have a motion and a second, so if there is no further discussion, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, we have first reading of the policies you see there under item 12, so that is for information tonight, we will be acting on those in a future meeting, first reading tonight. Next is the following policies are recommended for annual review, required review with no changes. We are pulling number 806, that one is going to be reworked. There is some language in there that, it's not consistent, the policy isn't consistent with what the current language is, so anyway, we will pull that one for tonight. But if we could make a motion to approve all of the rest, 410, 514.
I'll make a motion to approve all but 806.
Thank you. Motion by Bob Woods, second by Ethan, any discussion? All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. So we have board reports, any board members?
We're Education Foundation met, and wants the group, the district to know that there are funds available for grants, looking for innovative, creative things, so please continue to spread the word on that. We passed 3 in this last meeting. One for the RAC, which was kind of exciting to do, so but please spread the word out there that that organization really wants to give back and is excited to do so, wants some innovative and exciting things to contribute to. It's a fun group to be a part of. It's fun to see people bring their passions and
You've been on for a while, so thank you for
it's been since I think 2009. I was president for a while. That was a long time ago.
I have a question for MEF.
Yeah.
You'll take donations from anybody at any time, right?
Yes.
I have a class reunion coming up and there's an organization of some people that wanna do a class fundraiser. They asked where it should go and I named a couple different.
A neat way to do it. You can do it to increase the fund that we draw the interest off to give off, or you can just donate it to the general
scholarship fund.
Right.
The grant fund, I guess.
Grant fund.
Also, the meet and confer committee of the board met with, teachers that requested,
That's right, meet and confer.
so we did that.
That just happened just 5 seconds ago.
Meeting,
No, I mean, we just did the contract.
oh, this is just, meet and confer is
Oh.
a conversation.
Okay.
It's
It's
a
a-
legislative thing.
It's in statute,
Yeah.
state statute.
I always thought that was just before the
No,
contract
no,
negotiation.
no,
Oh,
this has
okay.
actually nothing to do with,
Good to
contract negotiations, but we just don't always have meet and confer, but, it's an opportunity to basically sit down and dialogue, committee of the board with our teachers, so. And they bring topics, we have an agenda based on topics that have been submitted to talk about, and so we did that, and I think it was within the last month, wasn't it? It was since the October board meeting.
So many things.
Can't
going
remember
on.
the date, I know, and I'm blanking on the third topic, I just jotted them down, what we discussed were the implementation of technology as new things come down the pike. This year it was it was the TVs, the touch, whatever. Clever touch, thank you, I've done that too. But other technology related issues that impact a teacher's life, or we just talked about the changes that could be made there, or how things could be improved upon as far as implementation and application. The condition of the buildings as far as cleanliness came up, and then what was the third?
Elementary behaviors.
Behaviors in elementary, so it was a dialogue among all of us.
Anything the board had to should take action?
I think everything that was discussed, we felt could be dealt with by directing it to the proper administration or individual, or I don't know, Craig, what, isn't
Yep,
that the?
Some of the things also are covered by due process, and some of the frustration with elementary behaviors that are out of the functional realm, but those students also have rights that have to be protected. So there's some frustration with that, and so Meet and Confer is set up by the legislature to meet up, and I think it's up to 4 times a year, is it, Jackie? And use our professional staff to help solve problems. And so it's kind of a problem-solving piece, and so we can listen to their frustrations, they can listen to some of our frustrations or limitations, and then we can try and work together to come up with solutions to make the district better. So that's basically what it's about and what it's for.
It's a good dialogue to have.
And executive committees does that?
No, that's a standing committee that we appoint each organizational meetings, so that
Yeah,
could
if
be
you're
changed.
interested.
I like talking.
So it's Tammy, Ethan, and me that are currently
alright.
making up the Meet and Confer committee.
And Mr. Schultz, I just want to say thank you for addressing that in your weekly correspondence to us. You talked about the issues. Thank you.
So, any other board meetings? 6:28.
There was a board advisory meeting, Tammy and I were in attendance on the 12th. And there they talked about the survey that's going out from the communications committee.
Brand identification piece.
Thank you. And then we also talked about the election results. Also, Mr. Nelson gave a report on the task force renovating, and he spent close to 50 minutes on that topic and all the discussion during that topic, which I'm sure we will hear from him sooner or later on that. What else was there, Tammy?
That was about it. I mean, yeah.
We went till well after 1 by Mr. Nelson, so. And
Is that good or
thanks,
bad?
and thanks, that's good, then we have 3 new board members on the advisory board, members sitting in the back row, so. Thanks for attending.
Thanks for stepping up and for attending, and and this is something that more people I think would love to be involved with if they knew, so spread the word. All they need to do is connect with Paula or Chris in the district office, and we will give them details. And there are so many a year, it's not monthly, but what is it average, about 6 meetings, 5 a year? So not a huge amount of time, and besides you get lunch.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Well,
it's at
there's
noon,
food.
they feed you lunch.
And thank you.
That's an opportunity to share information from the school district to the community, as well as the community to share their perspective so that we can relate that information to the board as we move forward in all of our various aspects, from technology to transportation to facilities to finances to student achievement. So do appreciate your contributions.
Yes, thank you. All right, any other board meeting or board member meetings, otherwise we'll move on. Scott? Okay. Student board member, Molly.
So I think last time I was here, it was the day before the Halloween 5K, if I remember correctly, and it went fairly well considering it was not the best weather again. We had the rainy, dreary, cold, but a lot of people came out and seemed to have a really good time. We basically broke even, but it was really fun. So I think everyone involved had a lot of fun with it. And again, thank you to Nancy for being there and helping us keep everyone safe. We had the blood drive last week, and the juniors are the students who set this whole thing and run this whole thing. Their goal is 53 units, and they got 54 units, so they did meet their goal. And we had 32 first-time donors, so it was a really successful day. I went after school, and everything was running smoothly, and they had everyone had a different job, and it was just they did a really, really good job running it. So
you must have done an amazing job of recruiting. Or did you have 30-some people step up and just decide I'm going to donate blood?
there were a lot of emails sent out and a lot of posters and lots of reminders. And there was just they would ask people and just say, hey, there's a blood drive Friday, you wanna donate? We have pizza, so
The free food.
that was the free food. Coming up, we're looking at the holiday drive, which is gonna be November 26th through December 7th, where we're gonna collect money and food to give around the holiday time, and it's gonna be a contest between the grades, and whoever win will get a movie in the auditorium just for a reward. It's gonna be a 1-to-1 point system, so $1 equals 1 point, 1 food item equals a point, and we have 6 teachers, 1 from each grade, lined up to collect everything and keep track of everything, and then student council at the end will go through and buy the toys and deliver food, and we will take care of everything after on December 7th. And then the only other thing we're looking at right now is winter formal. We started brainstorming ideas last meeting and have a few themes to choose from, and we're trying to put snow week the week before formal, so instead of having formal and then snow week a different week, we're gonna have it all 1 week to just kind of lead up to the big event. So yeah, and then not student council related, I just wanted to say how great it was coming back to school after having surgery, and like the Miss Grant over there, she did an awesome job, and all my teachers were super supportive and like very, very lenient in helping me catch up on assignments, especially in my college classes, and they just very good job, and very thankful for everyone that helped out. And for the other seniors that have had surgery the past couple of weeks, I've said the same thing to me, that everyone has just been so incredibly helpful for everything. So
You missed how many days?
I missed 3 full days, and then I missed 3 half days.
Drew missed 1 day yesterday, and he was feeling stressed out today in his
Yeah.
college classes.
I'll help him out.
Alright, thank you, Molly. Okay, we'll move on to buildings, grounds, transportation, Mr. Brandt.
Nothing much has changed since we were last year, except for the weather. So we've been busy outside getting things put away. We did have a contractor, switch out our, back parking lots, LED to LED, and if you get a chance when you come to big basketball games this winter, here at the high school, it's so much brighter back there, it's amazing. We also had to order, we're gonna upgrade the parking lot lights in the student lot as well, it's kind of dim and stuff out there, so. Busy converting the old varsity softball field into a baseball field. So contractor was out scraping, and we held in lots and lots of ag line, Tuesday. They actually have to bring more tomorrow, so before it gets cold, we're gonna get that shaped up. And then we did get that sink finally ordered, there was some, it's custom made, so they wanted to make sure what they sent us we can't get back, so we had to double and triple our measurements, but that's been ordered for the concession stand at the wellness center, so we'll get that put in when that comes. Transportation, we did our mandatory bus evacuations on the 24th. We only have to do that once per year now, so we're set, and that went extremely well. The parking lot there is a perfect spot to do that. Kids get out, and the drivers did a great job explaining what happens and what we need to do, and the older kids help the younger ones off the back of the bus, et cetera. It went really well. And I still have not heard yet on that bus grant that we talked about last month. It said early November, and I haven't heard, so I'll let you know in my weeklies if I get information. you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you. Alright, activities, community ed update, and I'm not seeing Chris, so her report is in your packet. If you have any questions, you can direct them to her. Unless Craig had anything further, if not, we'll move on to principals.
Just one thing I didn't see previously, we did purchase a concession trailer to utilize. One of the issues that we had for the football here is that there's no water back there, so all we can sell is prepackaged and bottled drinks. And so we looked at running water back there, and it was too cost prohibitive, and so we've been talking about this for 5 or 6 years now, that we were looking for a concession trailer. And Chris Osterdyke and Barb Frederickson found one that they felt would work. It's a used one, and it's coming from another school district, and so our shop guys back there are gonna take the stickers off, so we can decorate it up as a more Mustang concession stand that we can use then up at the baseball fields, the softball fields, the track, the football field here, and so I think it'll be a very good investment for us.
Thank you. Alright, so we will move to high school principals report.
Alright, you have the high school report in front of you. If you have any questions on any of it, let Mr. Baki and myself know. I just wanna point out the very bottom one, the Pledge of Allegiance. This, about 2 months ago, one of our staff members came to me and she said, Brent, I feel like some of our students aren't sincere when they say the pledge. So we did some brainstorming as a staff and we came up with an idea and I think it's been going all right. Be curious to know what you think, but what we did is Grace Kubish collected a bunch of information on past students, relatives of students and relatives of staff, finding out who are our active duty servicemen and women. And every Monday now, before we recite the pledge, I go on the intercom and I let everyone know, here's somebody, here's their rank, here's where they're stationed, kind of making it real. So they think about that and then we go into the pledge. The feedback I've heard so far has been pretty positive. What do you think?
I think it's really heartfelt to start on Monday morning, and like my class immediately is quiet and listens and does the pledge, and it's really nice and really interesting too to hear people that we've known, and some people know that they're part of the military, and then they to find out that older classmates have joined. It's like I really like it.
We've got relatives that a lot of people know about, so it's brought some good awareness and more respect.
And you have
I'll start with something, we accidentally missed the second page of ours in the packet. So that's all right, no big deal. So I'll tell you what was on there. So we had our reading night, which was October 29th. We had 373 people came through the front door, so it was a big showing. It was a lot of fun. Free pizza dinner for everybody. We just wanted to take a second to thank Tom Winter, the Horseman insurance representative. He donated 4 bikes for our giveaway, 2 primary, smaller bikes, and then 2 big bikes, and we had them in the lunchroom all week, and the kids were just so excited for them. And so we were able to give those away, and it was very exciting. In addition, he worked the booth with me all night long, like literally was taking tickets, and so he was there and active too, so I just really appreciated his involvement with that. And then just a thank you to Darren Lukenbill and Kathy for putting in all the time they do to make that reading night successful. And then they pull in all the other staff, and it's really a fun night. And the staff at the end, we all sit down and eat the leftover pizza together, and so it's just a lot of fun.
It is a good night.
Successful.
It's a lot of fun. I wish my daughter and I could have stayed longer, but high school winter sports meeting was that night as well. So maybe in the future, if we could just communicate a little bit better, because being in 2 places at once, at least I don't have to be in 3 places at once anymore, because that was a real struggle. But no, it was a great night. It's always so much fun, and it's exciting to watch the kids to watch the kids get so excited about reading and, oh my goodness, I have my own book. Like, I get to pick out what book I want and the arts and the crafts and the games and things like that. It's just a good way for the community to come together with our littles and then actually get to know some staff members while you're there.
And as the last component, it is a part of our Title I application.
Yep.
To do some kind of public teaching of our program. So Mr. Lukenbill does do the presentation, and then that fulfills that part of that component of Title I too, so that helps too.
And speaking of being in two places at one time, we have conferences going right now at the elementary. It looked like they had a good turnout. Band and choir concerts were Tuesday of this week and Thursday of last week. We had a very positive Veterans Day program. Thank you, Mr. Schultz, for your welcome speech, and Steve Ekholm did a great job as well, entertaining the kids and powerful, energetic 10 to 15 minutes of a great message. So we had 200 chairs up, so I would guess that we had about 160 to 170 community members in attendance. Good day.
It's a great program, all right. Okay, we'll move on into superintendent's update.
Just a couple things I wanna bring you up to speed on, and that is the closing date, for the Fairview property, has been moved from November 29th to December 10th. And that has to do with the, way the timing of the city council meetings, such that they will have should have all the approvals, for all of the various components for their, structural piece. We have just a couple final details that we're taking care of, that have been requested. When I say we, I mean Tammy and I. And so that's been moved to December 10th. And the closer that gets, the more exciting it gets, because I really didn't think we were ever gonna sell that property, and to actually bring it through to fruition here is gonna be fantastic. As far as the other piece of property that goes over with the transportation garage, that I don't know if that's ever gonna happen. They keep requesting things from us that they're supposed to provide, and so you know, the way that it was done with Quick Trip was very laid out and very precise, and is going through the process. And the one with this Dollar General thing is just, I don't know where we're at, to tell you the truth. So I don't know if that'll ever happen. Another thing that comes up this time of the year, and I just want to remind everybody here, whether you're a school district member or not, this just recently happened to a family member of mine as well. There's these phishing scams that come out about this time of year, and people are looking for money. And we had one of our board members this past week that was contacted supposedly by another board member asking her to purchase some iTunes gift cards or something. So please beware that those are out there. Immediately contacted Shane and our tech director, and he said, yep, it happened about this time last year. So within an hour after I was notified, he had that email out to all staff, as well as I think he put out another one, something today about Mr. Nelson. So I don't know if that was a made up one or if you were actually contacted. I haven't. But it will actually, it'll look real, look very real until you look at the actual address, the return address. And it's not the B. Nelson at Morris Schools, it's something else. So just beware of those. There are a lot of people that do fall into that. As I said, one of my family members did here just in the past month, so.
Plus, they're usually poorly written, really poorly
It definitely did not sound like you. I read through it. It's not Karen.
I don't know if you remember, but I think it was 2 years ago that they hacked my account at school. And they not only had my account, and they contacted Tammy, and they said something about, I think they said, Tamra, are you available today to make that wire transfer? And she contacted me and said, you never call me Tammy, what's the deal here? Well, I was out of town the day before that, and my credit card shut down. My school district credit card shut down. And the reason it didn't work down there, when I came back and talked to Tammy, was at the same time I was trying to use it, there was what, $200-300 charges in Omaha, Nebraska at the same time I was trying to use it here in Minneapolis. So that stuff does happen. People do access, they do fish, and they do hit the jackpot sometimes. So just be aware of that, so that if anything comes up, that you don't lose some money on that.
Unless you get an email from me, Woodsy, that needs you to buy something. That's
I got you covered. That's legit. Every time.
Alright. Thanks, Craig. Upcoming dates are there, again, our regular meeting in December will be early because of the holidays, so December 20th preceded, well, sorry, not preceded. Truth and Taxation is part of the regular meeting in December, so we'll have Truth and Taxation hearing also as part of that meeting, but mark your calendars, everybody, December 20th, which is a week earlier than we normally meet. Correspondence is coming around or has gone around?
Already gone.
Brings us to other board business. Is there any other board business? Second open forum. Anybody like to address the board or make public comment at this time? Alright, if not, we are going to be moving into closed session for the purpose of going over the superintendent's evaluation, which we have or are in the process of completing. So, need a motion to do that. First of all, I'd like to, again, thank everybody for being here tonight. And hopefully we'll see you in December. That's great. Tell people that there is some good information here. And also now they will have the opportunity to hopefully watch our meetings as we work out the kinks. And so that will be posted on the website. Is that correct?
I'm not exactly sure yet, we're still working on that, but it'll probably be on YouTube, with a link on the website.
YouTube. But we're gonna put a link on the website, right?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a work in progress, but it's coming and
The audio is still available on the website.
the audio is currently on the website. Thank you, everybody, and with that, we need a motion
Make
to.
a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.